All right, we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Chris, and this is my channel. We love comics, and I have 4 of my PGX books that are back from grading. They had about a 2 to a 2.5 month delay because they were getting really busy at the point I was sending in a couple of my sets of 4 books that I send in each and every month, that I have done now for over 5 years. And the funny part is I didn't spend any extra money on a faster service. I just pay for the regular shipping, and I still got these back faster than some people that have used Fast Track with other companies. So if getting your comics back quickly is important to you, if the in-house pressings and dry cleanings are important to you, if signature verification is important to you, if the cheapest price for your comics is something that interests you, then PGX might be some company that you want to try. Obviously, I am never here to tell you what to do with your money or with what you like and don't like. I definitely promote all major companies. I have no problems with CGC, CBCS, other than the fact they are more expensive. They do not have in-house pressings and dry cleanings, but I believe CBCS does. They have slower turnarounds, but their grades, they're going to sell for higher price, but I've shown many a time that I have no problem selling my PGX books. So, you are only limited to your own confidence and your own ideas, so never let anybody else tell you how to think. I'm just sharing my particular passion with you guys. You may resonate with it, you may not. I love watching unboxing videos, so if you're somebody that gets books graded, I don't care what company it is, if you do a live unboxing where you do not know the grades and you learn them live, send me the links. I will be more than happy to watch, and I will subscribe to your channel. That's just something I like, and it's one of the things didn't get me into comics, because I started back in around 2016 and didn't know about grading until about 2017, and I started sending some to CGC and CBCS, but that was back in the days you can get your books back relatively on time without having to spend lots of money. So if you're interested in using PGX, look at the link in the description of this video and any video I do. If you send 10 or more comics to PGX to get graded, you can get one of them pressed for free if you use the code We Love Comics Free Press. Make sure you use that code to indicate which one that you want graded. It could be anywhere from about $18 to $25 and even up if you have a more expensive comic that you could save on pressing fees. So, every little bit in your pocket is always better than in somebody else's pocket. And also, because of a suggestion I made to Daniel Patterson, the owner of PGX, years ago, he was kind enough to listen to my idea about adding grader's notes to the back of the slab. I like doing that. I do that with all of my comics. Whether you do it or not is up to you. But if you use the code We Love Comics Graders Notes, it's $5 per slab. They will put the Graders Notes directly on the back of the slab. So if you're going to sell them, you're giving your sellers, your buyers, an opportunity to know what's wrong with the book. I like it. Some people don't, but like I say, to each their own. So thank you already, 12 people that are here. One person was kind enough to hit the like button, so thank you so much for that. Always appreciate the kindness of strangers. And I have my 4 books that I'm going to do a live unboxing right now. Here is the box. And of course, right on time, the stream has stopped. So we'll wait for the circle to stop circling, and as soon as the image comes up on the screen, hopefully you'll be able to hear me, and we'll get the unboxing done. One of the things I always tell people, just in case if you're new, because you never know, somebody might accidentally visit this channel and see that I do the comic unboxings. I do not get paid by PGX, despite what a couple of people have accused me of years ago. I am under no obligation to say anything other than my shared experience. I have no contract signed with them. That is very important with me. With anything I'll promote, if anybody asks me to promote for them, I tell them the only way I'll do it is if I don't have to sign a contract, because when you sign a contract, you're obligated to have to say something nice. I want to give my subscribers my real interpretation of my opinions of things. I've promoted other things in the past, and because I'm honest, some people didn't want to do business with me again. And not for nothing, if a company is too afraid of hearing criticism, and honest criticism, not just verbally attacking somebody, but telling people what the pros and cons of any item, if a company has a problem with that, I don't care about doing business with them. You know, I'm no millionaire. I could definitely use the money. I mean, especially with two of my channels. One, I got not a content strike, but I got a strike from YouTube from a video I did 4 years ago on my other channel, and they gave it a strike, and I tried to appeal it, and they denied it. So I make about, with my Patreons for both accounts, and my ad revenue for both accounts, I make about $14 a month. So I ain't in this for the money. I care more about the integrity and honesty than making money and selling out. I see so many people on so many different channels, not just comic book channels, that are they care more about money than integrity. And that blows my mind. And there's a right way and a wrong way to make money. So anyway, I usually save the rants for later. Let's get the unboxing. I wanted to wait until a couple people came in. So 5 people have hit the like button. Thank you for that, as always. And for the people who say, you know, they miss my comic book videos where I talk about things to invest in, every comic I show in these are books that I still believe have the future potential of becoming more and more valuable. So watch my videos, even if they don't say, you know, top 10 books to invest in, because I've done those years ago, and I'm not going to just reiterate the same thing over and over again just to make a video. They're there for you to watch. Comic videos I made 5 years ago are still relevant today. All right, so they do the clear or full long size bags for the sleeves for the comics. As you can see, they put bubble wrap. I want to make sure. Okay, there's the front. And then they put blue foil. I'm trying to do it without looking, because I don't want to know the grades. So they put this in the blue foil wrapping. I've never, in the 5 years, and I've done this every month for the past 5 years, back in the days when I was living in New York, I've never had any comic case come damaged, cracked, or anything. So they do an incredible job with the packaging. As you could see, if you saw my last video, they did a much bigger box. This time they did a smaller one, but it still arrives perfectly fine. They put the bubble wrap, they secure these, and the purpose of this, like blue cellophane, is to keep these comics from jiggling around, because you know how, you know, UPS, Federal Express, and all other the delivery companies, how they really care about your stuff. Stuff gets tossed around all the time. Alright, so they did the grading out of order. This is, I believe, the set of 4 that was 2 months ago. Technically about 3 or 4 months ago, but they were the first. They were before the ones I showed last time. I don't really care about that. They just did them out of order. To me, that's no big deal. So I don't know the grades. I always tell people my prediction of what I think they are, and I base it on what I think they're going to be with a grade, with a pressing and dry cleaning. Now, always keep in mind, depending on the problems of the book, a pressing can increase it by 0.5. It can go 2 or 3 grades higher, because if all your damage is, like, for example, non-color breaking creases and wrinkles, they could press a lot of that out. So I always assume a pressing is going to bring it up maybe a point, maybe a 1.5. But I've had some where it was higher. Like, for example, let me see if I can find it. What I thought was a 5.5 X-Men 94 came out a 7.0, because the amount of the damage that was on this book was like non-color breaking creases. So pressings can really bring up a grade. So I don't want to go too high when I say, all right, you know, pressing's going to help at 2 or 3 points. But that can happen. All right, so let's get to the comics. That's what you're here for. 6 people hit the like button out of 18, so that's a 30% ratio. That's not bad. But if you want to be kind enough to hit it, that's awesome. If not, I completely understand. All right, so the first one. Okay, yeah, so this is the one that was before the one I just showed the other month. This is Marvel Previews number 94. I paid a grand total of $150 for this. Of course, that includes shipping and handling fees. I bought this before eBay decided to tax your comics, which is not supposed to happen. I'm not looking at the grade, but this is, well, I'll talk about the significance of this. It's not canon, but I'll talk about it when I reveal the grade. So this one, I predicted about a 9.4 to a 9.8. It did have some minor creases along the edge of the spine, not anything significant. So let's see what they thought it was. All right, so there you go, a 9.4. Usually I go 9.4 to 9.8, and it tends to be in the middle, but this is perfectly fine. This is the first appearance, technically, of Miles Morales ever, but it's in a preview, so it's not technically his first appearance. But this came out before Ultimate Fallout 4, so this might be something that you might consider to get in your collection, especially if you cannot afford Miles Morales' first appearance. So what did I say? I said white pages on this one. That's exactly what it is, white pages. So 9.4, is it a 9.8? Obviously not. I'm not going to be one of those people that complains about it. As you can see, like I said, for $5, if you use the code We Love Comics Greatest Notes, you can add the Greatest Notes to the back of the slab. I like to do that. It says slight cover wear, several minor stress lines along the spine. I did mention that. That means whoever had this probably read it. Or it could have been in one of those spinner racks where it just hits the side of the metal, because, you know, this isn't something somebody's, like a comic book store, they're not going to put this in a bag and board, I don't believe. At least most of them won't. So it could just rub against another comic or something. That's happening. This is a very thick book. And, of course, it's a preview, so somebody probably bought it to read it and then found out years later that it does have technically significance to it. But like I said, even though this shows Miles Morales and they show him with his 1 in 25 variant of Ultimate Fallout 4 in this, this isn't technically a first appearance because it's not in a comic book, so it's not canon. But for people who like to get stuff like this, is it worth it? It depends. I think $150 isn't bad. I would love to hear what you think about that. Would you have spent the money? Do you like those things or not? The good thing about people that say they don't like it is when I make a bid on eBay, I don't have to worry about that person competing to get the things that I want. So sometimes it's good to collect things that other people think is maybe stupid or crazy or something they don't like or they can't believe you're into, because then there's less competition, makes it easier to acquire the things you love. So, you know, if you're just following like most people do, if you're just a follower who follows what everybody else does and follows the trends and buys the most popular thing at that particular moment, you're going to pay through the nose because you're going to have competition wanting the same exact thing and they're going to fight you for it. And then instead of using your brain and thinking logically, you have emotion take over, and then you make a regretful purchase that you spent more on than you really wanted to because you got caught up in the emotion. If you are a person that cannot control your emotion when it comes to investments, you're going to tend to fail more than you're going to succeed. Now, obviously, if you're just collecting anything because you love it and you're not doing it for money or you don't care about the resale value of something, then that doesn't matter. But in a way, it still does, because especially in these days with the, you know, the economy going crazy and, you know, inflation and devaluation of dollars going down, because it's not things are getting more expensive, it's they've devalued the currency so low that you need more of it to make the same purchases. Having more money in your pocket is better, like I said, than somebody else's. So even if it's you're collecting something or buying something just because you love it, why spend an extra $100 on something when you could put that $100 to other uses? So it's not always about, well, can I make the most profit? It's, do I want to spend more money on something that I could wait a week or a month or a year for? And by the time, if you're buying something that's trending because everybody else is telling you to get it, by the time the price starts going down, nobody wants it anymore. And if you based your purchase on following somebody else, even though it's going to be cheaper at that point, no one's going to want it. I mean, how many people right now are looking for the first time that Captain America lifted up Thor's hammer? You can probably get that pretty cheap, a lot cheaper than it was when the movie Endgame came out, before it came out, and people heard the rumor that that was going to be in the movie. That book shot up to $200. No one's paying that now. It's probably $20 and nobody's buying it. So a lot of times, if you base things just solely on the emotion, or a one-and-done situation in a movie or TV show, or a one-and-done character that's not really significant at all and will not hold any value over long terms, you're going to fail more than you succeed. So please be careful with that stuff. Invest your money wisely. But again, if you're buying it because you love it, then it doesn't matter. But why spend more if you don't have to? All right, next up. All right, we got one of the big boys. This is Fantastic Four number 18. I was telling people to buy Fantastic Four books immediately after the Fox Fantastic Four movie was a flop. I knew that people were going to go based, like I just said, based on emotion, and they were going to start selling their books, and the price would go lower, and people would panic, and then they'd feel like they have to sell. Comics are not milk. They do not expire in a week. What goes down can always go back up, because what happens is, especially if there's a key issue, and Fantastic Four is the first appearance of the Super Skrull, so this does have significance. Sometimes it could take a couple years to rebound. If you don't have the patience, again, you should not be investing. If you're buying it to collect, that's great, but again, why spend more than you have to? But when everybody else was selling Fantastic Four books, and of course it's freezing, gotta love YouTube. All right, while everybody else was selling Fantastic Four books, I was buying them pretty darn cheap. I paid, with shipping and handling for Fantastic Four number 18, a grand total of $67. This could be a 0.5 and I will do well on this. Now, there is no guarantee the Super Skrull will appear in a movie, but again, the Skrulls are appearing. So the chances are it could happen, but the fact that there's Skrulls in the movies, especially going if there is the Secret Warriors and Secret Wars going on, not Secret Wars, Secret Warriors, the Skrulls are going to be active again, and that's going to make more people want to invest, and early appearances are always good to go. And if they do the Super Skrull, and yes, I did say do, this book is going to go up, and that's the time to sell it, when it's at its highest demand. So I paid $67. It's a lower grade book, and say it with me, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Low grade is better than no grade. Buy what you can afford. Everybody, of course, would love a 9.8 of any book, but if you can't afford it, what's the sense of dreaming for something that you cannot acquire at this particular time? Now, your future may change, but whether you own a 9.8 of this book or a 0.5 of this book, you still own it. So I predicted, like I said, about a 3.0 to a 3.5 off-white pages. Let's see what we got. A 2.5. All right, so this is actually a little bit lower than what I thought. And again, that's perfectly fine. I would, not complain, especially when I spent $67 on this. I guarantee you a 2.5 at this time is probably worth at least $150 to $200. Now, somebody can check me on that, because I'm not going to do that while I'm having streaming problems and add more internet usage. But again, I've said this before in previous videos, I don't base things on where they were. I don't base things on the value of where they are. I base them on where they're going. So, considering there's going to be a Fantastic Four movie, considering the Skrulls are going to be continually still relevant in the MCU, and the fact that there is a potential of the Super Skrull maybe showing up, I'm going to do decent on this book. I'm not going to make a killing and, buy a mansion or anything, but if I sell a book for double the amount, I've made a profit. So, at a 2.5, is it the greatest grade in the world? No. I'll take it. It has off-white to white pages. What did I say? I said off-white, so pretty much close to that. But like I said, this is the origin and first appearance of the Super Skrull. 2.5 for $67. I'll take it all day, every day. All right, last two books. And thank you to the 10 people out of 20 who have hit the like buttons, or up to 50% ratio. This is a book. I felt it was time to get one of these graded. I think I have maybe one more. I'm not sure. I know when I was doing my comic mystery boxes, which, by the way, I still sell my comic mystery boxes. You can look in the link in the description to go on my website and purchase them if you're interested. I know I did give one of these to somebody who said they were a Spider-Man fan. But this, of course, is Amazing Spider-Man number 194. First appearance of the Black Cat. Obviously not Catwoman, because that's DC. Mid-grade book, but I spent $24.95 on this book. So again, it could come back a 0.5 and I will do well. There have been rumors that Black Cat will be in a Sony movie. Now, it doesn't matter even if they've talked about a movie. It doesn't matter until it happens. You know, because they can cancel things. They've done that before. So, you never know. But still, Black Cat is still a significant character in the Spider-Man universe, and it will hold value. And for spending $24, basically $25 because it's $24.95, I'm going to do well regardless, because it's all about timing and finding deals and buying things when everybody else doesn't want them. I don't buy what's trending. Trending means you don't know what you're doing, you're following what everybody else is saying, and you're going to pay through the nose because everybody else is going to do the same exact thing, and somebody else is going to make money on your emotions. I buy the stuff when nobody cares about it. If I feel there's a future significance of a book or any kind of investment, you buy it when everybody else is selling. All right, so I predicted this one after pressing and dry cleaning a 5.0 to a 5.5. This book is a hard book to grade because of how black the cover is. So when it comes to mid-grades, I'm a little bit more challenged. When it comes to it, I said off-white to white pages. Let's see what the grade ends up being. All right, so 6.0. So there you go. It's pretty much close to what I thought it was going to be. And this is a newsstand edition. So that is a harder book to get. This came out in 1979. Off-white to white pages. What did I say? Off-white to white. So I finally got one exactly right. First appearance of the Black Cat, a 6.0. Let's read the grader's notes. Not a lot of them on this one. Multiple stress lines along the spine. That's always to be expected, especially with an older book, because people actually read them. Cover edge and spine wear. Several edge tears. So, perfectly fine with a 6.0. Overall, presents well, and I've said so many different times that if I'm going to have damage on a book, I would like to have it on the edge or near the spine. Because, especially when you get them graded, you want this to look good. Now, obviously, I have some where there's tears or there's writing or something like that, and if it's a Mega Key book and I can pay under the value of what it is, I'll take it. Back looks really good. So whoever had this took pretty decent care of it, especially for a newsstand. The reason I love newsstand variants is they are harder to get in higher grade for the most part, because those are not ones that come from comic book stores. Those are the ones that come from like the 7-Elevens, the regular bookstores, a Walmart, for example. So those tend to not be treated as kindly as if a comic book was selling in a comic book store. So especially if you have a newsstand variant that's a 9.8, those are really hard to come by, and they're a lot rarer. But always remember, rare doesn't guarantee value. You know, you can have a rare piece of dog poop that no one's ever had before. I seriously doubt you're going to get a lot of bidders for it, but this day and age, hey, you never know. But a 6.0 for a book that I spent a total of $24.95 on, for a newsstand variant first appearance, I'll take it all day, every day. I'm sure you would too. Oh, and by the way, if you've seen this, this, of course, is one of my AI art. I did some different versions of Harley Quinn, so always love to hear your opinion about that stuff. I'm going to do every thumbnail an original AI art piece that I've done. So this way my thumbnails are not just borrowing from other people's posts and making my own creation. I'm literally making my own creation. Well, the computer is. Alright, so this one needs no introduction. I absolutely love this cover. This isn't my original one that I bought when I was in my when I was a teenager, but I remember when I was just scrolling through the comic book boxes, and this book back in the early 90s was in the regular comic book boxes that you would see, you know, when you walk into any comic book store. It wasn't on a shelf. It wasn't in the back room. It wasn't in a cabinet. It was in a regular box with regular comics in it. And when I saw this cover, I knew nothing about the Silver Surfer. This is when I was first collecting comics back in the early 90s. I saw this cover. I had to have it. Now, that particular version of my original comic got stolen years ago. But, you know, obviously you could see I have this. I think this is my either second or third copy. I think it's only my second. But this, of course, is Silver Surfer number 4. This has no major significance at all. It's just, it's got an iconic classic cover. I mean, that pose with Thor and Silver Surfer going after him is just amazing. Rarity is hard to say with this book. There are some people that claim this book is very rare. There are some that say it's not as rare as people think. I guess it depends on the grade. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of lower grades. Of course, this one is one of the lower grades. I only paid a total of $65 for this book. You know, I bought this maybe about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. It's a lower grade. I predicted about a 3.0 to a 4.0 off-white to white pages. This is a very thick book, so it is harder to get in higher grades, especially with a book from the late 60s, because people read them, and a thicker book is going to be more likely to have some tears. But I said about a 3.0 to a 4.0 off-white to white pages. Let's see what we got for the final book. Alright, so there we go. 4.0. Again, right in the range than I thought. Very happy with that. It does have some color break increases, which, you know, again, that's going to happen from a book from 1969. It was the year before I was born. It says First Silver Surfer and Thor Battle. And, of course, they labeled it a classic cover. It's creamed off-white. I said off-white to white. So I was pretty bad when it comes to that. It does have a Stan Lee story. And is John Buscema art and cover. Again, how do you not love the art and that cover? This is one of those you hang up on the wall. But again, for paying a total of $65, I think I will do very decently on this book. And again, you know, Silver Surfer is going to be coming to the movie screen soon. Imagine if they do, I would love to see them do this, but these days, I don't hold my breath for anything anymore, especially with Disney, who went from, when I was a kid, Disney was, you know, the thing for children. Now they are the thing for doing inconsiderate things to children, and we'll just leave it at that, and promoting it at the very least. I won't get into it. I've always known Disney. When I grew up, I've learned the corruption about Disney all the way back in the days of the Mickey Mouse Club and way back. All I can say is do your own research. But imagine if they had a scene in maybe a Fantastic Four movie or a Thor movie where this particular scenario happens on screen. This book would go crazy. Now, this is a book that doesn't need that to have value. Again, this is one of those classic covers. It is we'll just say a rarer book. I would not call it rare, but I would say rarer. Because, you know, Silver Surfer back in the days didn't do very well. Same thing with the Incredible Hulk. There's a reason why there's only issues 1 through 6. Then it goes to Tales to Astonish until 101, and then comes back at 102. People didn't really care about the Hulk. That's why the Hulk #1 is so valuable. It's even more expensive than Amazing Fantasy 15. Because of the rarity of the book. As compared to AF-15, a Hulk 1 is much rarer, especially when you're talking mid to higher grade. So not a lot of people bought these books, not a lot of people kept these books, and you know, if you have a book that doesn't really have significance right now, you may not even have it in a bag and board, and then you could find out 20 years later that book is now a $1,000 book. And I'll give you a prime example. I had a copy of New Mutants 98 that I bought the day it came out, and it was so insignificant at the time. I had so many comics, I was running out of comic bags and boards, so I only put what I thought was significant books into the bags and boards. And one of my New Mutants 98s was not even in a bag and board. And I ended up, I think it was 2017, I was going through my old comics when I was getting ready to move, or I think it was before that. And I found it. I was like, I know I have another copy of this book. And it wasn't even in a bag and board. I think it came back in 8.0 or something because of that. Because there were stacks of them in a crate of books that really didn't have significance. But now it does. Same thing with Amazing Spider-Man 300. For the first 15, 20 years of that book, no one wanted it. No one cared. I have a signed Amazing Spider-Man 300. I bought it the day it came out. I went to New York Comic Con. I think it was 92, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but it was around 92. It was early 90s, and I got Todd McFarlane to sign it. So I had a high grade Amazing Spider-Man 300, signed by Todd McFarlane. And I remember 10 years later, I was doing a yard sale, and I tried to sell it for $25. And nobody wanted it. Nobody took it. No one even made an offer on it. Thank goodness they didn't, because just imagine if you have a story saying, oh yeah, I bought a higher grade, and I think it came back a 9.2 from CBCS, and that was before I knew about pressings and dry cleanings. So I actually may take that out and get it regraded by PGX and get it pressed. But it came back a 9.2 with an authentic signature, obviously, because I went and got it signed. That's worth a lot more than the $25 I was going to sell it for. But like I said, I paid a grand total of, I think it was $1.50 for that book, whatever the cover price was. But for years, no one cared about it. So just because you have a comic that may not have significance now, you never know later on. Now, it's harder to say with books these days. I won't touch any of these new books from these companies that are giving this garbage, in my opinion. You may love it, and that's great if you do, but I won't touch this new stuff. And a lot of these characters, I don't see them having a lot of staying power. You know, what was that girl that was supposed to be replacing Harley Quinn? I don't even remember her name. Do you? Not many people do. Does she have a lot of staying power? There's a lot of people they tried to introduce in the past couple of years that may have had significance for a couple of months, or what I called the flavor of the month, and then just fizzled out and nobody cares about them anymore. So I like to go at the newest. I'm talking New Mutants 98. I'm talking Batman Adventures 12. I'm talking the newest of the new would be Edge of Spider-Verse 2, Ultimate Fallout 4s. Pretty much after that, there's nothing that I see in the foreseeable future that has any staying power, and I think those books are some of the last ones that are going to continue to go up in value. Now, the problem is, most people, especially in the younger generation, will see something like Ultimate Fallout 4 and say, oh, it's reached its peak, it's never going to go higher. Let me tell you something. Back in the 90s, I bought Hulk 181, first full appearance of Wolverine, for about $94. Because no one really cared about it. And that was expensive at the time. Good luck getting a coverless version of that book for $94. But because nobody cared for it, and again, I bought that in the 90s. That book came out, I think, 1974. It might be 1973, but it's either 73 or 74. So almost 20 years has gone by, and I bought a Hulk 181, which was about a 7 to an 8.5 for $94. So it can take time. You have to think beyond the moment. You have to stop listening to people who don't know how to invest based on futures. And that's why back in 2016, 2017, I was telling people to buy Ultimate Fallout 4. I was telling people to buy Edge of Spider-Verse 2. Because I knew in my gut that those books had the potential to become something relevant, and look where they are now. Sometimes it takes a while. If you do not have the patience, you should not be investing in anything. If you don't know how to control your emotions, you should not be investing in anything, because you're going to lose more than you'll gain. And like I've said the story about blackjack, every now and then if you do everything right, you're going to lose. Every now and then if you do everything wrong, you're going to win. But you have to base it on the odds. Look at the things that I invest in with these comics. Look at the prices I pay, and you tell me if I'm going to make a profit or not, even if I sold them right now. So here's the 4 books. We got Silver Surfer number 4. I paid $65 for this. You let me know in the comment section you think I could make profit off of that at $65. All right, we got Amazing Spider-Man number 194. Came back, there we go, a 6.0. I paid $24.95. Do you think I could make a profit off that even if I sold it right now? Fantastic Four, number 18. Came back lower than I thought, but that's okay. 2.5. I spent a grand total of $67 on this book. If I sold it now, do you think I'd make a profit? And last but not least, this one I'm not so sure about. because it is a preview book. It's going to have a smaller audience, but you only need one person to buy something to matter to you. So it doesn't matter if 50 million people want something and they don't buy it. It only takes one person. But then I paid $150, which out of all of these, that's almost what I paid for all the other 3 books combined. Came back in 9.4, Marvel Previews number 94, which is the first time you see anything ever about Miles Morales. But it is not his first appearance because it's not in a comic book, so it's not canon. So I'm not trying to brag or anything, because none of these I'm going to retire off of. But the idea is investing is to look at the future of something, even if that future is 5, 10 years from now. You don't wait, because the longer you wait, the more inflation goes up, the more your currency is devalued, the more things are going to cost you, the higher the prices are going to go just by time and collectability. I had so many people that laughed at me when I was telling them to buy Ultimate Fallout 4. I was paying $10 to $12 a piece. Now, obviously, if you didn't know me back then this information is irrelevant. But there are many people that regret not listening to my advice because somebody on YouTube didn't like me and they said bad things and made false accusations about me, and they decided to listen to those people. Well, if you want to listen to people that have nothing but negative things to say in their heart, if you want to hitch your horse to that wagon, good luck with that. Those tires are going to break out and leave you stranded, and there's going to be nobody to help you. I have always tried to stay positive, especially on my newest channel here. I had an original channel where I used to sometimes fight people that were causing problems to me, justified or not. Wrong is still wrong. But I have nothing bad to say about anybody. I'm not going to call anybody in particular out. But if you want to take the advice of people that seem to be angry and tend to not like people for whatever reason, people they do not know, and they base it on assumptions on what they see on a YouTube video with any category of videos, that's a weird carriage to hook your horse to. But if you look at my videos, especially over time, look at my PGX unboxings, you'll see every time I do full disclosure of the price I paid for them. Then you could look years later if I sold them on an auction, and you could see how much profit I've made. And I still tried to sell them fairly, because when I do my auctions, I always tell people, make sure you look at eBay so you're not overspending, because I don't want people to regret a purchase from me because they were doing a bidding war and got caught in the emotion. I constantly tell people when I do a live auction, make sure you're checking eBay so you know, and I always put it lower than the lowest sale, unless it was something that was like 2 years ago or something. But I always stayed as low as I can, and remember, I don't charge tax. So there's a right way to make money, there's a wrong way to make money. And again, I'm no millionaire. I don't have, a trust fund. My money that I make goes to my wife for food, my cats for food, and me for my comics to invest in our future. You got to know how to invest wisely, and you need patience, you need the brain, you need the ability to do the effort. You have to sometimes make deals happen, like I showed with this book. I got this 9.8. It's valued at around $1,000 or more right now, and this is before Wolverine is coming into the MCU. Just imagine where this book will be then. I paid $651.83. That's after taxes and shipping cost. And this person had it listed as a buy it now for $700. They didn't have a best offer. Most people would have said, oh, I'll buy it at $700, which is still a good deal, especially if you could sell it right now for $1,000. A $300 profit in a week's time is great. But I decided to contact the person. I actually offered them $650. They said no. And then we went back and forth, and they said, I'll take $600. So they took $100 off just because I took 5 minutes to email somebody and made it happen. Now, it doesn't always work, and it depends on how you talk to people. You really have to talk to people with respect. And be polite, like you're talking to a friend. Not just, hey, I'll give you $600 for this book. How about, I saw your advertisement. Would you be willing to accept, let's just say, the $600? I'll be more than happy to pay for it right now so you do not have to wait. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your response. That's going to get more attention than somebody that just sends a generic email that says, I'll give you $600 for this book. And that's it. Sometimes people like to be talked to with respect and with decency. So put in the effort. And you will make deals. It doesn't always work. But, you know, if you find that needle in the haystack, you're going to be very happy you searched. But then again, you know, what are you going to do with a needle that was in a haystack? Unless you're somebody that desperately needed a needle. You know, you could go buy one at Sam's Club, probably 1,000 of them for about $2. But my point is, when you make the effort, you'll find the gem. Doesn't always happen. Doesn't happen quickly. There are no guarantees. But as they say in the lottery, you got to be in it to win it. You're guaranteed to not win if you don't play. So, with that being said, those are the 4 books. Thank you to the 18 people out of 24 that hit the like button. That's a very awesome ratio. I always appreciate people that are kind enough to do that. My videos don't get the hundreds of views anymore that it used to, and I'm perfectly fine with that. To me, quality over quantity. If you appreciate these things, I would love to see your comments when the video uploads. And let's do a surprise subscriber shout out. We're going to go with the person that just made the last comment. And forgive me if I mispronounce this, but La Escuadra de los Comic Books y Otra Cosas. So I think that says the buyer of comic books and other things. Says, I stayed before I listened to Chris. Says, I stayed before. It might be saved. I don't know what you were trying to write there because it says S-A-Y-E-D. Something before I listened to Chris years ago, and I got a few copies of Hulk 180 and 181, Ultimate Fallout 4, and many more. Also bought from Chris a few times, always well packaging and payment plans. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And the person did get their $5,000 book that they got from me, the first appearance of Black Adam, and I gave them 5 months to pay for it, and they sent me each month a money order. And they didn't get screwed. I gave them the book. I put it well packaged. I spent even double what I charged them. Actually, I gave them free shipping. I think it cost me like 40 or 50 bucks to ship it because I basically put one comic in like a box like this to make sure it was secure. They got it. And if you ever order from me, you're going to get them quick. You're going to get them well packaged. And even if you send, because when I tell people, if you want to send a money order, or a check, but check you have to wait. So I always tell people get a money order. I will take 10% off of the price of the comic. So it's a good way to save some money. So I'll let you know when I do another auction. I don't do them very often. But look for deals, make deals happen. Know what you're investing in. You need to know, if you go on eBay and you see a book, you need to know almost immediately or have access to something that you can check pretty quick to know what the value is of something. So if you see a buy it now for something that's $500 less than what's worth, and it's a legit place, not some 0 rating seller from China, you can pounce on it. And I've done that many a time. You can do it too. Just got to put in the effort. You got to make sure you hitch your horse to the right wagon. You got to know what you're doing. You have to have patience. You have to base it on logic. Because remember, I've wanted this book for a while. I'm not just going to buy the first one I see. I'm going to spend less than what it's worth. So there are so many people out there when it comes to investments, they'll say, oh, this book is too high. Well, that doesn't mean you have to spend that price. If you see an auction for this and, oh, I wanted a 9.8 and it's more than what you wanted to pay, pass it by and wait for the next opportunity. There will always be more. Unless it's a book or an investment that's one of a kind, there's always going to be more that will show up. So if you're patient and not basing it on, oh, I need it because I got to get it right now, that's when you overspend and that's when you make the regret. And you can always make profits on books that even people think is overpriced. But again, I will say it again. If you know about investing and how investors on average work, because they base things on emotion, when do you think most people are going to want this book? They're going to want this book when they see the first real trailer of Wolverine in an MCU movie. Especially if they see him in a costume. Now, most people are going to go to 181. That book is going to become unobtainium. real quick, because even a 0.5 is going to cost you about $1,000 now. Not a lot of people have that kind of money to spend these days. So what are they going to go to next? They're going to go to Hulk 180. What do you think that's going to do to the price? When people can't afford 181 anymore, then they go to 180. What do you think is going to happen to the value of that book? It's going to become unobtainium eventually, whereas 0.5 maybe cost you $500-$600. Where's the next place they're going to go? It's most likely this book. So if you think, and mark my words on this, write it down. This is how confident I am in my ability to predict where the future is going with an investment of something I'm very familiar with. It doesn't matter if there are 1 million copies of this book. It doesn't matter if of the 1 million of the copies, 1 million of them are all 9.8s. It is irrelevant, because if 2 million people want those 1 million copies, that means there is a 1 million copy deficit, which means twice the amount of people want the book, and if they want it bad enough, they're going to fight for it. But what's going to happen is most people are going to want books like this when the trailers come out, when it's trending, when it's hot, when everybody else is buying it, when they see the price go from $1,000 to $2,000. I promise you, unless they totally screw him up and you see Wolverine on a trailer and he's wearing a dress, if he's in his costume and they show Hugh Jackman in the actual Wolverine costume, which we never saw with the Fox movies, he was never in his comic book costume. And somebody asked, do I want the black and brownish costume or the yellow and blue? I would prefer the yellow and blue. That to me is his iconic costume. The other one's a little bit too generic with the colors. I would love to see, and I bet most people would love to see him in the yellow and blue costume with the mask. If they show that, everybody the next day is going to go on eBay or go to their comic book stores and buy this book up. Mark my words, write it down. Even though this book is around $1,000 now, I am making the prediction right now that when you finally see him, if you see him in costume, this book will be about a $2,000 book. So, is it expensive at $1,000? Sure. Well, if you bought it at $1,000 and it does happen to become $2,000, well, you've now doubled your money and made $1,000 on a book that you may not care about because somebody thinks it's overpriced. And I'm not particularly shouting out any one particular person. I've seen many people when it comes to investments. It blows my mind. But again, let's say it goes to $1,200 and only goes up $200. If you spend $1,000 on a book and you sell it for $1,200, you've made a $200 profit. Unless, of course, you sell it on eBay and then you have to worry about PayPal and all the fees, you probably end up losing money. But if, let's say, you sold it cash to somebody, you're still making profit. I paid $651. If I sold this for $1,000, am I making a profit right now? But I would be silly to sell it right now. I see where things are going. Wolverine is going to soon, whether that's a year or 2 or 3 years from now, we don't know, because, things can be backed up. I mean, look at the train wreck of Indies 5, how they're doing the reshoots because people found out how woke it was and how they were going to destroy the legacy of Indiana Jones for a female version. What an original concept these days. You never know when things might be delayed or postponed or changed. You never know. But Wolverine's coming. And I think they're going to take him seriously because this is a bread and butter character. They don't want to mess this one up. And most people are waiters. They sit around and wait to see something jump up before they touch it. No one buys the penny stock. But they'll buy the penny stock if they find out it went from a penny to $100. They buy it at $100 and find out 2 or 3 days later that $100 went down to a nickel. Now you just lost 95% of your investment because you didn't invest in it when it was a penny and sold it for $100. You bought it when it was $100 and went down to a nickel. If you want to follow the followers, make sure you follow somebody that knows what they're doing. And even if somebody knows what they're doing, it does not guarantee automatic success. There is not an investor on the planet that has a 100% batting ratio, a 1.0, or a 1,000. Everybody is going to make a prediction on something and get something wrong. But if you're batting 500, you're a guaranteed all-star. Look at the average person. If you hit 350 on average, you're an all-star. That means 3.5 out of 10 times you succeed, which means 6.5 times out of 10 you fail, and you're a Hall of Famer. So I cannot stress to people enough that the quantity of something is irrelevant to the value of something if more people want it than what is currently available. Just look at any storm, whether it's a hurricane or a tornado or a snowstorm and a blizzard or electricity goes out. If more people want something, you're going to pay through the nose. I'll give you a prime example. When we had the hurricane that just came out last year, and luckily, thank God, it missed us. It was going to go directly over us, but it shifted at the last minute. I bought some ice cubes. They charged me $5 a bag for ice cubes. I bought styrofoam coolers at 7-Eleven. They charged me, it was $39 a piece for styrofoam small single thing that could hold maybe a 12-pack of cans because of the shortage of supply. The people that say that something is overproduced means it can have no value, in my opinion, are not correct. They're not trying to deceive you. They just do not see the potential that they should. And even if, again, even if something only goes up a little bit or stays stagnant and stays where it's at, if you bought it for under it, you can still make a profit. That's when you have to make deals. That's when you have to wait for deals. Sometimes you have to say, washing my hands on this particular investment because it's not where I want it to be. And even though I would love to have it, I don't want to spend through the nose and watch it nosedive and lose all my investment based on something that I thought I wanted because everybody else said I should get it. The time to have bought Ultimate Fallout 4 was 4 or 5 years ago. But that doesn't mean that you cannot find deals on it now. Because there will be people that will be convinced, well, Ultimate Fallout 4, for example, has a lot of copies. So therefore that means it can't do anything. And it's a modern book, so therefore it can't do anything. Blows my mind. Those are the people I love to buy those books from. Because they'll regret it 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I'm a long-term investor. I'm not a flipper. Flippers want profit within a week, a month, maybe a year. If you play the long game, you'll do a lot better. And I'll give you a prime example. I, at one time, had 2 copies of the 1 in 25 variant of Ultimate Fallout 4. I also had a CGC 9.8 Edge of Spider-Verse 2 that I bought raw for $94, got graded without pressings because I didn't know what they were at the time, came back in 9.8. I sold the Ultimate Fallout 4 at 9, it wasn't graded, but I sold it for, I think, $1,500, $2,000. A 9.8 now is in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. The Ultimate Fallout, the Edge of Spider-Verse 2, 1 in 25 variant. I only had 1 copy. Loved the cover of that book. Sold it for $1,500. That book is now about a $9,000 to $12,000 book. So yes, did I make a profit buying a $94 book and selling it for about $1,500? Yeah. But if I would have waited a couple more years and trusted my instinct, I would have made a heck of a lot more. That's why I'm not really going to be selling my Hulk 180s or 181s, for example, because I do want my wife to have a better home than what we have now. I bought this home because I wanted to get the heck out of New York. And I was able to buy this house cash. I own this house. It's good enough for now. But this is not our forever home. So, yes, I have, I think, 5 copies of Hulk 181. I've been telling people for years to invest in that book. I bought, the most expensive one I bought was for $1,500, and that's an 8.5. I bought it raw and got it graded. But I also bought that back in like 2017. I'm using those to buy my future home. That's what you can do with investments if you are patient. If you are understanding of the futures of something. And not get trapped in the, well, this has 1 million copies, so therefore that means it has no value. I tell people all the time, Miles Morales, Harley Quinn, Deadpool are characters that in another 20 to 30 years, their comic prices are going to be where the Hulk 181s and Hulk 180s are now. Because, like I said, I bought a Hulk 181 in around 90 to about 93 for under $100. And it was, like I said, between a 7 and an 8-ish range if it were to be graded. Good luck getting a coverless for that price now. You have to play the long game, unless you're a flipper. If you're a flipper, you cannot afford to play the long game. You'll buy something for $5 and sell it for $10. Yes, you'll double your money, but you made $5. I'd rather wait 5 years, and maybe that book now is a $5,000 book. And even if I bought it for $1,000, which is a lot more than the $5 that person's bought it for, I made a heck of a lot more profit. Now again, you could be somebody that collects something because you love it. And this stuff is irrelevant. But, you know, it's nice to have if you're in a state of emergency or you're in the need of cash. It's nice to know you might have something that even though you may not have bought it for that purpose, that it may come along and help you in a time of need. Because if all of a sudden a situation happened and I needed $5,000 quickly, I can easily sell 1 or 2 or 5 of my books, depending on what I was willing to get, let go of, and have that money quickly. And that's one of the reasons why I tell people, if you can, get multiple copies of something. Because then you can use one as trade bait. You can sell one and still own the book. There's so many things that you can do. If you want to listen to negative people that say, this is not going to be what it's worth, this is not going to have potential, it's not going to put you in the right mindset. I'm not saying these people are bad, and they may honestly believe what they say, but just because somebody believes something to be true does not mean it's true for you. Everybody can say they hate Brussels sprouts. And they legitimately might hate them. So that's truthful to them. But you may come along and try them and say, wow, I love Brussels sprouts. I'm so glad I didn't listen to the other people. So it's irrelevant if 99% of the world says something's bad, or something is crazy, or something is wrong. If it's right for you, and it works for you, and it benefits you, then who gives a darn what anybody else thinks or says? If you want to succeed in life, follow people, and I'm not just saying it's me, I'm saying anyone that has the glasses half full mentality, the positive outlook of things. And trust me, last year, I wasn't very positive. That's why I didn't make many videos. That's why I lost a lot of subscribers. That's why I lost a lot of viewers. That's why I didn't get many comics. You get what you give. You give nothing. You're expecting everything. Have fun waiting. You're going to really be playing the long game for something like that. You have to make an effort. But you also have to be positive about stuff. If you fail, so what? You didn't learn to tie your shoes the first second you were born. You had to be taught. And you may have gotten it wrong the first couple of times. If you give up, you've guaranteed success or failure. So you could be successful at failure if you want to focus on the negativity. So even with that, the irony is you could be a success even though you're a failure. Depends. What do you want to be successful at? Do you want to be successful at successful things? Or do you want to be successful at being a failure? Do you want to be successful at being positive? Or do you want to be successful at being negative? To me, I don't care if there are 5 million copies of this book. If it's worth 1,000 and I buy it for under 1,000 and I think it has potential because of where it's going, I'm going to buy it. And if there are 5 million copies and 6 million people want it, you now have 1 million people that are going to have to overspend if they want it to get it and compete with those other million people to get those books. It is basic economics, supply and demand. But you think the way you want, you listen to who you want, you do what you want. I'm not here to tell you anything. I'm here to make suggestions. I'm here to share my success with these. Because again, I'm no millionaire. But like I said, if I need to turn around and sell a couple of books, I can easily make money like that. I'm holding them for future because I want to make even more to be able to buy a house. I don't want to have a down payment for a house. I want to pay for a house cash. And I'm also waiting for the continuation of a housing market to go crash, because then I could buy it even cheaper. To buy a house right now would be ridiculous. Unless you are going to be homeless and you need a place to live, I would highly recommend renting over buying right now, because in the next year or so, there's going to be a severe market crash, not everywhere, but in a lot of major cities, one of them being which I am probably within a half-hour drive of. What a coincidence. I ended up moving to an area where the top 5 cities in the continental 48 United States, I know there's 50 states, but Alaska and Hawaii are not in the continental United States. Of the top 5 cities, I live within a 30-minute distance of one of them that's going to have a major potential major market crash in the housing market. So I'm waiting for my investments to increase in value. I'm waiting for something that I want to buy to decrease in value. When the housing market starts to crash, even further than it already has now, people are going to panic sell. There are going to be investors that cannot hold on to something that continues to lose money, and they're going to panic. They're not going to sit there and say, well, I might lose money in the short term, but I only lose money if I sell at a loss. I can wait if I can afford to for another 10 years, and it'll be back to where I want it to be in a profit zone. Most people do not have that long-term mentality. Investments are not this, they're not this, and a lot of time, well, they can be this. You know, if you look at stocks, there have been many businesses that went under. But on average, especially when you're talking successful businesses, you're going to see this, a fluctuation. When it's going like this, that's the time to sell. When it's going like this, that's the time to buy. Because when something has value and people want it and it is worth investing in, it will only go so low before somebody says, wait a minute, that is now worth buying. And it's going to reverse and then go up. And then eventually it gets to the point where it's like, wait a minute, that's a little too much to spend. And people start to sell and it starts to nosedive. But if you look at any long-term chart of anything of value or potential value, you see peaks and valleys. Buy low and sell high. If you're buying high because everybody wants something, and you're selling low because everybody's scared of it going down and they want to get rid of it, you're not going to make a lot of money. You're going to be very discouraged, and you're going to quit whatever you're doing because you hitched your horse to the wrong wagons. And again, I'm not saying anybody's bad. Everybody has their advice, and it may be true to them. But if their advice is not true to you, then it is irrelevant, because if you know anything about how the world really works, you can have 2 people have 2 different experiences at the same time, have a different result, and both be right. And I'll give you the example. I've done this in previous videos, but it's probably been a year or 2 before I've given the scenario. And I'll prove to you that 2 people can share the same experience, have 2 opposite reactions to it, and both be right. And I've used this analogy before. You and your friend are on a roller coaster. You're in the front seat. Neither one of you have ever been on a roller coaster before. You're both looking forward to it. Ride gets up to the top, starts shooting down. Person in the left seat is, oh my God, this is amazing. This is so much fun. I cannot believe I've never been this excited before in my life. I can't believe I've never gone on a roller coaster. This is so much fun. I am having the time of my life. The person to the right feels like they're going to throw up. They're scared to death. They cannot believe they're on this roller coaster. They want to get off. They hate the experience. Both are on the same roller coaster. Both are on the same ride. Both are experiencing opposite reactions, and both are right. The person that's enjoying it is right for their right to enjoy it. The person that's hating it is right for their right to hate it. The problem in the world today is the person that hates it is saying, how could you love this when I hate it? You're wrong. And the person that loves it looks at the person that hates it and says, oh, you're crazy. How can you be hating this ride when it's a fun experience? And they clash instead of respecting the fact that, oh, even though I hate this ride, this person loves it, that's okay. And this person says, even though I love this ride, some people may not like it. And that's okay. This world now is, you're wrong because you think differently from me. These are people that are the majority of the world, and I feel sorry for them. And one day, history's going to look back at this time in the past 2 to 3 years, and actually, I would say since about 2016, probably for another 2 or 3 years, because eventually this stuff, it like peaks and valleys, eventually it's going to reach a tipping point, and people are going to be sick of it, and they're going to start doing the opposite. But people in history are going to look back from this 20, 25 years from now saying this is the most crybaby-ish, ridiculous, ill-informed, emotional time in human history. It's ridiculous how bad people are these days. But they have the right, because sometimes you have to learn how to be more positive by experiencing the severe negative. You learn to not touch the stove when it's hot, sometimes by being burned. The smart people say, okay, that hurt. I don't ever want to do that again. So guess what? Through a negative experience, you learned something positive. It's the moron and the idiot that will say, well, maybe this time if I touch the stove, it'll be different. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. But then again, I'm just a guy who collects comics. You can listen to me. You can listen to part of what I say. It can resonate with you. You can not be resonated with this at all. You could just be here for the entertainment. You may think, oh, Chris is on one of his train wreck rants. I watch because I love the drama. Whatever reason you're watching, that is the right reason for you. All I know is, regardless of why you're here, I appreciate you being here. Even if you were here just to thumb it down because you hate me, everything about me. But that says more about you than it ever will be about me. Because you know what? I don't hate any of the people I don't agree with. I just don't listen to them. I don't put my energy to them. Because if you focus on anything negative, you are now giving your power and your energy to that negativity, which keeps it alive. It's like feeding the dragon that's breathing fire and destroying your village. When you feed it, you keep it alive. And you allow it to continue to do the destruction it's causing. That's why I will not watch Velma. I will not watch The Rings of Power. I will not watch the Willow TV show. I will not watch Thor Love and Thunder. I will not watch Wakanda Forever. I will not watch The Last of Us. Now, I've seen plenty of reviews of these movies and TV shows from people that show clips that I trust, that give honest opinions, that tell it like it is, will talk for hours. I will listen to them to full detail to where I know the movie or TV show without having to see it. I'll give you a prime example of how easily Hollywood can trick people. The newest TV show out right now is The Last of Us. Now, in my opinion, The Last of Us Part 1 is probably one of the best games that have come out in the past 20, 30 years. I've played that game from beginning to end 7 or 8 times. I've played on every difficulty. I've finished the game on every one except for the hardest, I think the hardest one I haven't completed. I've found almost everything to find in the game. Love the game. The story is incredible. What did they do? Hollywood is learning how to trick most people. Because what have they done? From what I understand from the reviews, and again, I watch people that I absolutely trust, that are not sellouts, that are only giving a good review based on the fact that they'll be allowed to watch it and be able to review it earlier and get more views, which means more money, so they care about more about money than revenue. Hollywood is learning how to trick people. There's an old saying. If you have 99 pounds of ice cream and you mix in 1 pound of poop, what do you have? you have 100 pounds of poop. What that means is it doesn't matter if 99% of it was good, fun, happy, great tasting ice cream. If you mix in 1% of something that ruins it, it ruins the whole thing. So, Hollywood has now learned from some people that I would have thought would have given it a little bit harsher review, but said 10 out of 10. And again, I have watched so many reviews on it from people that I trust who gave full details of it. I could pretty much tell you the TV show without even watching it. They said that the parts that emulated the game were awesome. The parts they added and changed were not. And what they've learned is, if you give somebody 99% of what they want, you can squeeze in that 1% social justice warrior agenda BS and sneak it in there and people will be okay with it. It's like being in a relationship where your ex, whether male, female, or whatever, cheats on you, puts you down, makes fun of you, insults you, neglects from you, steals from you, and then a year later they come back without apology, without any kind of responsibility, saying, I want you back. And you take them back just because maybe they were good looking or better than what you used to. If you have that insecurity, you will go back every time. Instead of saying, you know what, even though you may be the best looking person I've ever dated, I deserve better because I have power in myself. So you may like the Last of Us. And if you want to thumb down my video because I said I will never watch it because of certain reasons, by all means, please do. It's not going to affect me because, like I said, I'm not here for the ad revenue. I make about between $9 and $14 a month with 2 channels, ad revenue and Patreon. So I'm not here for the money. The fact is, they took a strong Caucasian male and turned him into basically a psychopath wimp. And I'm not going to spoil anything. But if you've watched it, you understand what I'm talking about. They've taken Ellie, who was in the video game, this girl, inexperienced little girl that had a special thing about her, and if you haven't played the game, I'm not spoiling it, that needed to be transported and grew because Joel loses somebody important in the video game. Again, like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything. And this affects him in the future. And throughout the game, she becomes more confident, he becomes more trusting of her, and allowing themselves to bond. And the story is what made that video game so great. They've changed Joel from a Caucasian, straight, very tough, very leader quality man into another race, into a softer role, even though he had a psychotic break in one episode that makes him look like a lunatic. His daughter is now mixed race. Ellie is basically a cursing machine that's a lot tougher than she really deserves to be, especially in the beginning. The Fireflies are primarily women, which most people say, oh, you're nitpicking. No, I don't want to watch a Wonder Woman movie that has Wonder Woman being played by a man. I don't want to see a Black Panther movie where Black Panther is played by a white man. Does that mean I'm racist, or does it mean I want it to be exactly what the comics were or what the origin of the item was? Blade, which, by the way, is one of the first African-American superhero movies and one of the first rated R comic book movies. I don't know how people that say Black Panther was the first black-led and Deadpool was the first rated R movie when, remember, The Mask was also rated R, and that came out way before Black Panther. Blade was a rated R comic book movie that the lead was Wesley Snipes, who last time I checked was African American. I would not want to see a reboot of that where a Asian female played Blade, because Blade is an African American male. So it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with, this is the character, this is who should play it. If there's a character introduced as a gay character, which I forget the name, I think it might be Shatterstar. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a character from Alpha Flight. I think it was Alpha Flight issue number 106, if I can remember properly, from the 90s, where there was a team member on Alpha Flight that came out as gay, which at the time was a big deal. I don't want to see that character be played by a straight character, or be played by a woman. If that character was a gay white male, that's who should be portraying it. Now, that doesn't mean a gay actor has to be gay to play the part, because it's supposed to be pretend. Ladies and gentlemen, acting is basically pretend lying. The point of the matter... North Star, that's who it was. Thank you for that, Knights of Old. To me, stay true to what made your TV show, your movie, your video game, whatever, what made it popular. And there are people who will review stuff, and I see it all the time, like Velma. I will never watch that show. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. You have based on Scooby-Doo, and Scooby-Doo's not even in it. They race swap one of the characters. They make Fred into a whiny piece of garbage, because, of course, you have to trash white males these days, which I always thought two wrongs don't make a right. Do you ever get taught that? How many of you actually have parents that taught you wrong is wrong no matter what? You know, you can believe something to be right. You can justify anything that you do. Wrong is still wrong. There are people who just don't like that, to hear that anymore. Wrong is still wrong, even if you justify it. These days, people just throw caution to the wind. You could do anything, you could say anything, you could be anything. You can go to California, you could steal up to $900 worth of merchandise, and you won't get arrested. Well, what about the business owner that just keeps losing $900 worth of merchandise every day? What do you think that's doing to their family? What do you think it's doing to their livelihood? Well, those people don't care that are stealing and just blatantly going in with bags and just sitting there throwing stuff into their bags and casually walking out knowing that they won't get slapped in the wrist at all. What are you doing to your community? Ridiculous. But I think most people that watch my channel are at my level in the sense of thinking better than what the majority of people think these days. And they are basing things on logic and truth and resources and information and statistics, and not based on feelings. And if you do, hey, sometimes you gotta, sometimes you have to go through a harsh winter to appreciate a good summer. Sometimes you have to go through the bad stuff to know what you don't want. That's what I say about my 2022 year. Is that was probably one of my worst years emotionally, financially, in a very long time. I gave up. I wanted to sleep more than I wanted to do anything else. I had no desire to do anything. I wasn't the most wonderful of persons in the world. But now I look back and I say, thank goodness I went through that, because I never want to feel that way again. And it was nobody's fault but my own. I don't blame it on the environment. I don't blame it on inflation. I don't blame it on race. I don't blame it on sexuality. I blame it on the fact that I chose to let certain things get to me that I have easily control over. And that's nobody's fault but my own. But the beautiful thing is, if you fall into a hole because of your own stupidity, you can find a way out using your intelligence or your willpower. If you wait for somebody else to throw a rope down, you're going to be stuck there for a long time. Stop waiting for Superman and realize you are Superman. Or Supergirl. Or Super Trans. Whatever you want. I don't care. So, a lot of people commented. 25 people liked. Many people shut off because they don't want to hear me rant. That's fine. It is a comic book channel. I absolutely understand that. Some of you come here because you can't wait to see what I rant about. Some people like it. Some people just like to have something in the background while they're scrambling their eggs. And some people just want to see the next train wreck. You're all right. And that's perfectly fine. Thank you for coming. Thank you for hitting the like button. I would love to hear your comments in the comments section. and check out some of my other videos. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, do not forget, it is not you, it is not I, it is We Love Comics. Give a shout out to our shout out. And I'll give one more because we see a lot of them here. Knights of Old did a lot of comments in the last few minutes. And I appreciate you guys so much. Have a great day. Keep collecting what you love. Don't hitch your horse to the wrong wagon. And by all means, for God's sake, or Allah's sake, or Cabbage Patch Kid's sake, have fun. Life is too short to be so angry or bitter or confused.